friends. Every single week we pour our hearts and late nights into crafting these bone-chilling animated horror stories just for you. If you're loving the nightmares we serve up on Eerie Narratives, hit that subscribe button right now and smash the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Trust me, you don't want to be alone when the real terror starts. In the last weathered block of a fading neighborhood along the Mississippi River in New Orleans, there stood an old two-story Creole house with peeling teal paint and rusted iron balconies. That's where Kwame and Amina lived. They'd been married just over 2 years. Their life was quiet, warm, filled with late-night jazz drifting from the French Quarter and the smell of red beans and rice on Sundays. But slowly, something began to change in Amina. She grew quieter, distant. Almost every night she'd stand out on the upstairs balcony, gripping the railing, staring down into the dark, swirling waters of the Mississippi, as if she were listening to whispers only she could hear. Her clothes shifted too. She started wearing the same deep crimson dress every day, a flowing, old-fashioned red gown with lace that fluttered in the river breeze like blood in water. On her wrists she wore sets of smooth white shell bangles that clicked softly when she moved. And the fish. Amina had never been a fan of seafood. Now she craved it constantly. Catfish, mostly. She'd eat it raw if Kwame didn't bring fresh ones home from the market. If he forgot, she'd beg, then demand, then scream until he went back out into the night. Kwame told himself it was stress. Maybe hormones. Maybe the humidity playing tricks on both of them. Then the biting started. One night, as he slept, Kwame jolted awake with the sharp feeling of teeth grinding into his shoulder. He sat up gasping, but the room was still. Amina lay beside him, breathing deep and peaceful. The next morning, his shoulder and neck throbbed. In the bathroom mirror, he saw it clearly, deep, perfect human bite marks, already bruising purple. He started watching her closer, and he grew afraid. One humid Louisiana night, Kwame's sleep shattered again. From the kitchen came a wet, crunching, tearing sound, like something raw being devoured. Amina wasn't in bed. Heart hammering, he crept downstairs. The house was pitch black except for the faint greenish glow of the security light outside and the weak lamp over the stove. He pushed open the kitchen door. There she was. Amina stood at the counter, her back to him, savagely tearing into a whole raw catfish with her teeth. Blood and fish guts dripped down her chin and fingers onto the tile floor. The white shell bangles on her wrists were stained pink. As he watched in frozen horror, she slowly turned her head toward him. Her eyes were glowing blood red. Before Kwame could scream, she lunged, like a wild animal. She slammed into his chest, knocking him flat on his back. He felt her weight pin him down as she lowered her face to his neck. He felt the sharp points of her teeth pierce his skin and the sickening pull as she began to drink. In pure panic, Kwame tried to shove her off. That's when his eyes dropped to her feet. They were facing backward. The ankles twisted the wrong way, toes pointing behind her, scraping the floor with a sickening sound as she moved. The world spun. Everything went black. The next morning, Kwame woke up in his own bed, sunlight streaming through the curtains. Downstairs, Amina hummed softly while making breakfast. The shell bangles clicked cheerfully against each other. Everything looked perfectly normal, except it wasn't. When he opened the fridge, the 5 pounds of fresh catfish he'd bought the day before were gone. Completely gone. And when he checked his neck in the mirror, the bite marks were still there, raw, angry, and very real. He realized with ice-cold certainty, whatever was living in his house, it wasn't his wife anymore. That same afternoon, shaking with fear, Kwame drove to the edge of the quarter and found Mama Delphine, an old root worker and hoodoo woman whose name older folks only whispered. People said she could see spirits that others couldn't, and sometimes drive them out. He told her everything. Mama Delphine listened in silence, her wrinkled face growing darker with every word. Finally she leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Son, that ain't your wife no more. A river bride got her." She explained that the river bride is the restless spirit of a woman who died young, right before or right after her wedding, full of hunger and rage for the married life stolen from her. She possesses happy brides, slips into their skin, and lives out the domestic bliss she never had. But the hunger never stops. She craves the river. She craves raw flesh. And most of all, she craves the warm blood of the husband, drop by drop, until the man is nothing but an empty husk. She won't leave until she's drained every last bit of life from him, Mama Delphine warned. And if you wait too long, she'll wear your wife's face while she does it. Kwame begged for help. That evening, as the sun bled red over the Mississippi, he brought the old root worker back to the house. The moment Mama Delphine stepped inside, the temperature plummeted. The air grew thick and damp, like river fog had filled the rooms. Amina stood silently in the living room in her crimson dress. Her eyes slowly flooded crimson. The white shell bangles began rattling violently on her wrists, louder and louder. As Mama Delphine started chanting and scattering her powders, Amina's face twisted into something inhuman. Her hair whipped wildly though there was no wind. She let out a guttural snarl that didn't sound human. The rootworker's voice grew stronger, the chants faster. But the spirit was stronger. With blinding speed, the thing that wore Amina's body leaped forward, jaws unhinging. It sank its teeth into Mama Delphine's throat. The old woman's scream was cut short as blood sprayed across the walls. Every light in the house exploded at once, plunging them into total darkness. Kwame stumbled backward in blind terror. He heard wet, greedy sucking sounds, and then the footsteps, those horrible backward-facing feet scraping across the wooden floor, coming straight for him. The red dress glowed faintly in the dark. That night, a single blood-curdling scream tore through the riverside neighborhood. By morning, police and neighbors forced their way inside. They found Kwame and Mama Delphine on the floor. Both bodies were bone-white, completely drained of blood. Deep bite marks covered their necks and shoulders. The medical examiner couldn't explain it. No blood at the scene. No wounds that should have caused that much loss. Just two pale corpses and the faint smell of the river. Amina was never seen again. But old Miss Eudora, the 78-year-old widow who lived across the street, had been watching from her window that night. She saw everything. The shock was so deep she couldn't speak for days. Weeks later, when she finally told her family what she witnessed, they thought she'd lost her mind, until Miss Eudora was found dead in her own bed. Body drained chalk-white, 2 puncture wounds on her neck. Her family moved out of the neighborhood that same week. To this day, folks in that last block by the Mississippi still talk about the house. They say on foggy nights, if you walk past just after midnight, you can see her. A woman in a flowing crimson dress stands on the upstairs balcony, staring down into the black river water. The hem of her dress drifts in the breeze like it's underwater. Those white shell bangles catch the moonlight and click softly, a sound that carries through the silence like distant screaming. Some swear they've seen her turn her head and smile with teeth too long and sharp. And if you listen carefully, you can hear the soft scrape of feet that are facing the wrong direction. If this story sent chills down your spine, do not forget to subscribe to Eerie Narratives and turn on post notifications. We've got even darker tales coming every week. Drop a comment with the scariest part for you, and tell me, would you stay in that house one more night? Stay safe out there, and watch what stares back at you from the water.